Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this event. Oh, I got a thumbs up from Catherine. Thank you very much. Uh, and welcome to this meeting that we're having. And we are doing this in conjunction with the climate summit that's being held for the four county compact. So we thought we'd try a meeting in person, but it seems like we got a lot of folks that are joining us on Zoom more so than we had in person. So it turns out because the last week we got a teacher or two to testify here, I'm sure from Palm Beach County or from Miami-Dade, that just it seems like a particularly busy time for people not to show up for these meetings. But anyway, thank you for joining us, and we are recording it, so we'll be able to pass this along. And what I'm going to do in a minute here, you'll see our panel set up. And what I'm going to do, a few minutes is we'll have the panel introduce themselves, and then we'll have some discussion. Uh, and that's what we need some of your input and questions as well. So I hope you're coming here with some of those. I'm going to start off with, here, I'm going to switch it around. And I'm going to actually switch the view. I can. And I'm going to put it on speaker view for a few minutes. Okay. And um, let's see if that's working. Barbara, you seem to be popping up on my screen. I don't know why that would be, you would be the speaker view or not with that, but I don't know. You got your mic off, I think.
Yeah, I have my mic off. I just turned it back on. I'm not
Okay.
sure. I'm not sure why, but
Um,
I'll keep it
I'm
off.
going to change my view. Yeah, I'll turn my view. I'll switch it around and let's see if that does something. I don't know what, but no, that's multi-speaker view. Immersive, what does that mean? I don't know. I don't think I want to get into that. It's like swimming. Um, oh, that's interesting. Well, we might switch to, um, well, we'll try it this way and we're experimenting with a remote meeting right now. But anyway, I'm going to get started here with framing this a little bit, and then we'll turn it over to our panelists, and then they'll introduce themselves. So let me see if I can share out. I've got really a few slides to share with everybody, and can get that started here. Let's see. Okay. So the big question really that sort of motivated some of the meeting today is where are we with climate education in Southeast Florida and where would we like to go? And so again, as I mentioned, this is a concurrent meeting with the climate educator for climate educators. It's not really part of the summit, which is just down the street here, which will be running 2 days for those of you who know that. We have some of our panel members who are there today if you want to ask them any questions about the conference. But we, part of the reason we're doing it today is we wanted to try to highlight for folks attending that there are educators that may not be heard at this meeting. So we want to sort of elevate that and maybe for consideration for coming years, they'll make educators a bigger picture part of the picture for this. So we're moving forward with that. Anyway, we're glad you're here. The Regional Climate Compact actually has a climate action plan, which you can Google if you are not familiar with it and read it. Very interesting document. One of the goals is this informed and engaged communities where you can find descriptions of education there and how the input is from schools. And I'll just read a sentence from this. You expand the breadth and diversity of organizations and individuals engaged in equitable collective action on climate change by sharing resources and knowledge that support informed communities and investing in sustained partnerships. So that's sort of where education community comes in. Now, to support that goal, there's only four of this 26 strategies that address that goal involve academic institutions. So that kind of raises a red flag, I think, for educators. Well, we'll see. Given the size of the student population here in the four county compacts. You know, if you look at the numbers here, we got about 850,000 students in the K-12 public schools, maybe in almost another 100,000 in private schools in the four counties, and over 100,000 in post-secondary education here. So there are, that's maybe over 1 million students in this region. So should that be a bigger part of what they're talking about? In the compact is one of my questions that I look at that document and says. So here's a softball for some of our panelists here, or you guys at home. Why should we support climate education in Florida? And any thoughts here from our panelists? Give us one reason. Forever.
I mean, realistically, the question should be, why shouldn't we support climate education in Florida? South Florida specifically, of all the areas of Florida, anything south of Okeechobee is most likely the most impacted in the nation by any of our experiences in climate change, and even into elements of climate change that we don't typically think about, such as the prevalence of even into like invasive species and stuff like that, which plays a role into how these things are forming. Our climate is shifting. We used to be considered to be a subtropical like region, and I believe now technically, if we really want to be as fine point with it as possible, we're now considered to be a neotropical. So we're moving more and more into different biomes, which is then incorporating new problems into our day-to-day routines that we're seeing out there. And then on top of that, we're having exacerbated effects just living and going about our daily lives here in the cities with things like the urban heat island effect that we're experiencing on a mass scale. Broward County and or Miami-Dade County of like the highest rates of heat index over. It used to be a metric of like heat index would be flagged at like 95 degrees felt index, and now it's being shifted to 100 degrees, and then it's recently now being pushed to like 105 degrees because we're blowing past those metrics so commonly throughout our days. So all of these things are huge issues for most of our communities, and we can't ignore them, we can't deny them, we can't not go outside and already have a picture of like, dang, it's hot out here. So, and then everything else that goes along with that too. Like that's a much longer answer for what you're asking.
Exactly. So thank you for that. Yeah, it's exactly hit on. I've sort of differentiated here on the top of this. You see three things that are, and you were kind of referring a lot to temperature increases here, I think, and two of our other big problems that we know that are happening right now are sea level rise and the ocean acidification and coral bleaching that really are hitting us. And probably what's happening also, as we're worrying about, is the rapid intensification of hurricanes and more intense rainfall. So those are hazards that we're just seeing the beginning of. And I just want to point out a couple of things from our group. Our Florida Climate Educators Network here has a mission to help prepare our population to face this challenging future that we've already begun, and making sure that resilience, that we teach about resilience, not only as the content of it, but also opportunities with our students about adaptation and mitigation. So that's one thing. And I do want to point out some things that I think a lot of people don't know. We have an interesting political system in the state. And most people, there's some controversies about mentioning climate change and that sort of thing. But most of our population, 2/3 of our population, according to some recent polls from FAU, say that Floridians think that climate science should be taught in K-12 schools. So that's important to keep in mind, I think, when that happens. The other thing I think that I would argue is that in our professional requirements of Florida, if you see the highlighted thing, one of our professional conduct principles is that educators should make reasonable efforts to protect the student from conditions harmful to learning and or to the student's mental and or physical health and or safety. And Trevor pointed out some issues that we have with temperatures that students were worried about already in the playgrounds that we have in schools. And also there's this issue about climate work, people worried about climate change, especially young students, and how that impacts them. So I think it almost seems like we could make an argument that that's an obligation for teachers to address, given this code. So, our teachers engaging in climate education in Florida. So I'll give a few slides and then we'll turn it over. A few years ago, the NAAEE, the National North American Association of Environmental Educators, did a survey across the country, and they found that teachers are really concerned about and want to teach climate change, but school districts and schools have generally not made it a priority. And they concluded that they need more curriculum inclusion, access to resources, and professional development. Now, since that report, there's a wave now among some states, and I know we got Julie on from Illinois here, even though she doesn't have a microphone. She's in one of the states that actually made that part of their standards. So there are some that are moving forward with that. Part of that survey, I looked at the data with Florida teachers. About 40% of the teachers in Florida who answered the survey said climate change doesn't come up in their classrooms. About 30% of the teachers teach only 1 to 2 lessons a year. So 70% of teachers at that point were saying they either didn't teach it or they only teach 1 or 2 lessons a year. And only about 10% were teaching more than 10 hours a year in their classrooms about climate change. So the number of teaching hours, but interestingly, the numbers go up to 18% if they start counting hours outside of the classroom. So I know Rachel has had some experience, and Kester, you probably too. What does that mean as far as, how they get those extra hours in?
Before we go too far, and maybe I'm wrong, have we had a chance for everyone to introduce themselves, just like 2 minutes?
Yeah, let's do that. This was actually my last slide, so I wanted to go ahead and, why don't we move in? I'm going to stop share and then we'll go to our gallery. Sorry. And I'm going to switch you around. I wish I can't get that isolated on that particular window, but I'm going to make sure that our group is here and I can move you a little bit closer. And then Rachel, why don't you introduce yourself and everybody else can introduce themselves here. And if you want to get people introduced from the gallery, you can as well.
Sure. So I'm Rachel Wellman. Some of you may know me. I've been involved in environmental education for about 20 years. I have a PhD in ecosystem science and management. So my research was actually in climate change, where I studied carbon, nitrogen cycling, and how ecosystems were being affected by changes in carbon and nitrogen in the soils. So I got really heavily involved in education, especially when I came back to my home state of Florida. And I'm now working with the school district for the second time. I had a brief pause in between moments where I was teaching at Boca High, now at Palm Beach Lakes Community High School, where I was at FAU. We wrote a grant actually to create the Climate Ready program. You might have heard of this. The READY stands for Resilience, Education, and Action for Dedicated Youth. And so a lot of that was actually stemmed from my classroom experience, particularly in Boca and in Boynton, actually. And these students were charged, and they were upset that it wasn't a conversation that was very commonly had in our classrooms. And so I worked with Pine Jog over at FAU to write this grant. It was a NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration grant, education. Eventually I went over there to help them see the project through, which we did. And we published in January an article in Geoscience Communication in Europe. So anyway, just a quick with me, and now I'm back with the school district, growing strong, leading biotechnology academy at Palm Beach Lakes, and teaching ACE marine science, which is one of my loves of teaching. That's me.
Trevor, before we go, can you guys, oh, thank you, Barbara. Can you guys indicate whether you can see our panelists here? Has everybody got that screen? Because our big screen here just shows the slide from the PowerPoint. Are you guys, Barbara?
Yes, we can see the panelist perfectly.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Howdy folks, my name is Trevor Davis. I am the Environmental Programs Manager at the Museum of Discovery and Science down in Fort Lauderdale. Currently my role is to oversee and lead a team of 88 high schoolers in our Eco Explorers internship program. And then I also assist with our sister internship program as well, the Aviation Academy, which has another 37 interns. But my main focus is leading high schoolers out into the swamps and everything like that, and getting them workforce development skills and readiness, and getting them ready to join the workforce with whatever career path they fall into. We select from Broward County Public Schools. There's about 30 different Broward County Public Schools that we pull from, and we specifically are targeting populations of students that are typically underserved. The majority, or not the majority, about 30 to 37% of our students fall either in the Alice household range or at or below the poverty level. Majority minority students, immigrant families, things like that. So we get them workforce readiness, we get them introduction to all the industries that they could possibly fall into with environmental studies, climate resiliency, climate sustainability, natural sciences, even a little bit of urban planning and architecture, depending on who we introduce them to. We do field excursions with them. They work at the museum for us on the floor, doing pop-up activities with the guests and specific activations that focus around environmental education and climate resiliency. And then we also will get them opportunities to meet and greet with industry professionals from all across the spectrum.
So, hi everybody, Cassie James, Director of Environmental for the school district. I've been doing environmental work since the year 2000. I'm that old. So this is just a subject matter that I do think is important, at least to discuss, to become aware of what's out there in the community. Just here, learn, and participate. That's why I'm here. Thank you for being here.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, so I'm Bernaby. I have been a Navy marine scuba dive instructor and conservation instructor since the year 2000. And I'm also a homeschool teacher. Okay, so I taught from 3rd grade. So 3rd grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade to 10th grade, and right now I'm teaching 5th graders. So geography and climate change, and because scuba diving is very related to climate changes, and I was very aware of the outside temperature, over 100 degrees, and literally so and my son's school right now, the track and field, they can only go, PE lessons go to track and field if it is below 100 degrees, right? So it's affecting, students basically. So I'm interested in the climate topic since a teenager, right? And here in, let's say, West Palm Beach, so I joined the sustainability course, and then whenever there's the Floridian teach you about the birds, I got the certificate and underwater. So whenever those that are available for educators, I try to educate myself more and teach more. And so and I'm also part of the I'm a member of the Explorers Club and the Society of Marine Geographers. So we like to go like mountaineering. So it's all these are very related to climate, okay? Because I actually climbed 2 mountains I actually climbed twice the same mountain, right? 10 years apart, and I literally witnessed the climate change, right? From being on snow and then being on ice, and make all the difference for mountaineering, and that really breaks my heart actually. So because it making mountaineers very difficult to climb. The same mountain, it's still the same me, okay? So from different aspects, I'm very interested in. I'm very interested in climate change, climate education, and we need to be stewards for the future generation.
100%. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that because we tend to be laser focused here in South Florida, where our, major issues are sea level rise and intense storms.
And I'm sorry, I always taught and teach like coral bleaching and
Sure.
I've been teaching that like 20 years ago. So it's always in my PowerPoints, and I want more. Whenever people are ready to listen, I'm ready to teach. So I want people to be like this.
Well, that's the kind of educators, that really flourish in succeeding.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
But what I was thinking though is that, bringing up that there are issues with snowfall and how that's affecting, like the northeast of, the United States even, and, hearing from those folks and I'm industry. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. Would any of our online participants like to introduce themselves?
Yeah, maybe if you would like to introduce yourselves, I don't, you might unmute yourself and then go ahead and talk. I don't know if we got everybody on the screen.
And it's okay if you don't. No pressure. We welcome your discussion, your part in the discussion as well. We just wanted to give you a chance if you'd like to say hello. So you can always chime into the chat box as well, and that would certainly help. So I guess we can go into this question that you've posed. I just wanted to get us a feel of who we're talking to. I think it's a friendly conversation. At first we wanted to have a panel discussion, but I think as educators, we all have a part in this, and we're all seeing different aspects of where our educational systems are, especially related to climate change. So we'd love to hear from others if you would like to participate as well. You want to go with this question next?
Yeah, I don't know why that's showing up on the screen there, but anyway, but I'm glad they can see us.
Might be that you're still sharing the screen. I don't know.
Yeah, I turned off sharing. That's why I asked them if they can see us fine. I don't know why that thing's still showing that, but
Check. So,
yeah, I guess if somebody has a question, I don't know if they can raise their hand, maybe that works, or just unmute yourself and ask a question.
That sounds perfect.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So I'm a fan of WWF, and I know WWF has WWF Classroom, right, which is very useful for educators. And I've shown, I squeeze the time, to show those to my students. Right, and it's about like animals, the habitat changes, but so far I haven't seen like a education video that's related to. I mean, from a big organization, if I YouTube it, of course, if I Google it, it's tons of them. But I want it like organization, if I could just follow one organization or a few organizations that I can have this resources for teaching climate. So here at West Palm Beach Sustainability course, we have one lesson that's showing elbow or something, right? Teaching material, which I was authorized to use. But apart from that, and then I think that is geared more towards adults, right? I've never seen, if I'm wrong, but I've never seen something that like tailored for middle schoolers, high schoolers. Strictly, narrowly just climate change. Because I know climate touches on everything, right? So I've never seen, and I've been in Florida for like 12 years already.
So I have a question actually for you. You mentioned a sustainability course. Which course are you referring to exactly?
So
Is it with
West Palm Beach,
the city?
the city has an office of sustainability.
Correct.
They have been here for like around 20 years already. I was involved in it because I had a meeting with the mayor, I think the fourth day before, and I was in that office. You know, helping an organization, right? So it's a meeting. And West Palm Beach sustainability is it's a big thing for this city, right? The mayor like won some awards nationwide, so they're really into teaching the residents, that's common people, how to, how to plant more trees, just to, they have data, they literally have data telling you the shade, the shade from the trees, reduces, how much carbon emission. I've seen data from it, right? They are very successful in that, right? And because they have good this with these, right? They have home programs, so if you are a resident of the West Palm Beach or you work, so you're either resident or you work within West Palm Beach, then you can be at this course free of charge. They would have home programs, how to, from electric light bulbs to how you how you landscape your lawn, how to use less water for flushing the restroom, everything basically, and like eco cars.
So it's through the city of West Palm Beach. That's what I was
It's
at.
through
I
the
was
city of
wondering
West Palm
when
Beach.
you were referring
And
to.
if you need to contact them, I have in contact, but I want this, I want this to be in more cities, literally.
Sure.
Palm Beach Gardens, in Jupiter, I don't know why, of course, it depends on resources and funding, right? But from my perspective, let's say, if I want to teach my son, right, not just talking about like more students. I don't even know where should I start, apart from the powers that I create and the boards and like Google or YouTube. Do you have, from the school district, from Palm Beach County School District, do we have something that's readily available?
Actually, and would you like to speak about that, please?
No, that's
As a parent, I was never introduced or
But are
maybe
you,
for science teachers, maybe for science teachers, I don't know.
but from, your resources are from homeschool
Yeah,
as compared from in school.
so I homeschool, my profession is homeschooling, right? So perhaps, the school district has resources for like public school teachers, but I've never seen it.
But I don't know that it's available to homeschool.
Then why not available to homeschoolers?
I don't know, that's what I'm saying, I'm in a different department than the academic side.
Thing for Florida, South Florida.
Sure, and I'm just speaking from a teacher that's taught in university and in public school. It's not common for us to share curriculum in that form, but there are actually a ton of national resources that are available.
Where can I find them?
And I'd be happy, any of us could, a couple of us anyway, would be able to share some links and resources with you. That you can use that are free.
I know that like science program or.
Well, there's a great national organization I've been a part of for about, I guess, 10 years now. It's called Clean. And it has to do with climate change education.
in New York?
They were based out of Colorado. And they've worked with the folks like Jen from New York. That might be what you're thinking of in terms of the these climate summits. Yeah. And I know
I associate with teaching. So.
and Trevor might be able to speak more about summits as well, because I know that his mods has gotten involved with a lot of that. So let's actually hear from you, if you don't mind.
Sure, regarding what aspect though would you like to this question right here? I don't know off the top of my head, like if I have any resources that at least that Mods has access to that we can share out. But I know that Mods is working with like other, like we partnered up with like Broward County, for instance, and we've developed like we are the home base at the museum for the climate resiliency hub.
Yeah, I was told that down south in Boca, the resources are there, but not in Palm Beach County. That's the.
I don't know anything about what's going on in Palm Beach County. I live down in Broward. And I work in Broward, so I don't know what Palm Beach is doing. But yeah, I mean, we are trying to partner up with like our other, like, we'll try to team up with Cox as well up here in Palm Beach. Even down in Miami with like with the Frost Science Center that's down there and Miami Children's Museum. Any of our museum entities that are across the area, we're happy to try and like team up with and partner with. We've hosted the Climate Compact before. Next year, actually, it's gonna be hosted down in Broward again. We're gonna be doing another section of like before the compact, where we're gonna have like a special night at the museum and stuff to also highlight some of these things. For teaching resources, I'm not entirely sure what we have access to or what we might be able to assist with, but we are working on current initiatives in the museum to boost a lot more visibility of climate education. We're currently working on a whole new, it's supposed to be our new central flagship not university exhibit, that we're opening the first phase in May. We're tentatively calling it the Build a Better World exhibit. The idea behind it is that we are supposed to be, we're going to be highlighting a whole bunch of different new developing technologies, new solutions, possibly for different climate resiliency focuses of all different backgrounds, whether it's in architecture, in urban planning, in marine sciences, all of these different things that are going on. But the idea behind it is that it's also boosting like positive character traits in the individuals that are coming through, because the positive character traits that we're trying to highlight, such as critical thinking, caring, confidence, cooperation, those are really going to be the things that we're going to be pushing forward to get better solutions out there in the future. And so like the idea behind it is that if we can get individuals to think creatively about what these new steps are going to be to solve these problems and highlight those that are already doing this, we can take it from an eco-anxiety perspective and bring it into an eco-action perspective and leave children of all ages, whether they're homeschool or public school or any of the kids that come on field trips or anything like that, or just in general our visitors that are there, can hopefully get out there with a more tangible experience of like, these are the strengths that I highlight that I personally do. And so it's less of a like pledge at the end of it to be like, I'm gonna turn off a light bulb here and there. It's gonna be a more tangible, like, I realize I'm really good at speaking to groups about things. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna gather my friends in my homeschool pod, and we're gonna sit together and we're gonna talk about what I learned today about the mangroves and why they're so important to our coastal, areas here. So we're really trying to get people to really focus on the innate strengths that they already develop, to combat these eco issues that we think are so important in the area.
And
I know that's
that has been, running or to be launched, right?
This is to be launched. This is an exhibit that phase 1 is gonna be releasing in May, and then phase 2 should be finishing in an opening about October.
It will be there.
It'll be at the Museum of Discovery and Science. It'll be down in Fort
Oh, the
Lauderdale.
college.
Yeah, and so it's gonna be like the main central portion of our exhibit hall and stuff like that is gonna be taken over by this exhibit, so.
I think
I
we
was
benefit
thinking about
from,
summits, that there were times that because of work, I could not join, and then I missed the resources.
yeah, I think what she said with national stuff, that might be one.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I must say that I'm very excited. I've known about the project that's been developing at
Okay.
once, and I'm so excited.
It's been a fun one to try and work with.
To see it, come to its fruition.
Yeah.
Oh, just a couple of comments, can I make? Just, Trevor, I mean, I think you gave a great example of something that within the summit, because I imagine that next year when that's held in Broward, I don't know if the museum will be at the museum itself.
I don't believe we're actually hosting it, but we are doing like a special in coordination with the compact to do like a night at the museum style thing. We did it the last time it was held down in Broward as well, which I think was like 2016 or 2017 or something like that. Yeah, so it'll be similar in vein to that, but it'll be actually happening like our phase 2 will have opened like a month before that compact, so everything will be like brand new and fresh.
That's a great example of ways that the compact can share some of those resources. But again, it may go out to compact folks who are not educators who will be plugged
Right,
into that.
Yeah.
So the question then arises, I mean, this resource question, as we talked, a little bit earlier when showing the slides, that's one of the areas that teachers nationally don't think they have enough of.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So the question then for me and for us to think about for next year is that kind of question about identifying resources might be a good goal for the compact to try to
Yes.
organize.
Well, and in the paper that we published in January, this was something that we researched is, the state of climate education in South Florida particularly. I'm actually from, I don't know, the kind of a rare bird. I'm fourth generation West Palm Beacher.
oh, wow.
My family was here during the hurricane in 1928 when it killed over 2,000 people right here in Palm Beach County in the West Palm Beach area. As a matter of fact, where I teach right now. So the reality of, high impact storms, hurricanes, and other climate change effects are very, very real in this part of the country. And so I would be happy to share the research that I've done, actually, that the lessons that I've encountered and even tried over the years. Our Climate Ready program was quite successful, I think, in Palm Beach County. We targeted schools within the school district, and we had brand new lessons that we generated that actually brought high schoolers to elementary schools and had them be the teachers of the things that they learned about climate change and help the kids develop their own stories on how to be resilient to these changes. So it was, and I'd be happy to share those lessons with you as well. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we can pass it on, Barry mentioned some resources we might be able to share out. So anything that we can share out after this session, I'd be happy to send along with a link to the recording of it so that we can share out to others.
And do you think we can have this PowerPoint too, all of this?
Sorry?
Can I have this PowerPoint too?
Oh, sure, yeah, I'd be happy to send that around as well. I'll make a note.
So I guess, have you encountered very many teachers in Palm Beach County asking about lessons, particularly on that note?
I think that they are starting to ask, they're starting to develop it, they're starting to explore it and find ways to incorporate it into school lesson plan. So we just encourage them to do that, at will. If there's a resource that I can provide. So I'm at a different angle, I come at it, but not from academic, I come at it from the building, the construction, the maintenance side. So I can support them offline, but I don't get into their academic. But we just encourage them to incorporate it.
So we got some.
So, but I know we're talking schools, or guys are talking more schools and students. But you should also focus on that education aspect in the community. Because we have to think about California. It's a wraparound, and it's not just in the school, it's outside in the community, it's the venues, it's that bigger picture. So we're gonna lose the battle if we only focus on this niche. It needs to be expanded.
That's true, and that's why I think Mons is a really good example of how a community can do that.
Right.
And our sustainability department is amazing. It's actually one of the first in South Florida and West Palm Beach. But I think we haven't quite gotten there in terms of including the rest of the community in it. So I guess maybe for Maz, how did that start? How did you get your foot in the door in the community? Fort Lauderdale?
Like in general, or are you talking about like in the space of like teaching climate education? Yeah, so we have a series of like 5 pillars that are our main focuses for the museum currently. They've developed over the last few years to be like our main like action plan of what we want the museum to focus on. And there are things such as like physical health, physical sciences, early education. But one of those main ones is that we wanted to have a dedicated aspect solely to like climate resiliency. Because we recognize, especially where we're located physically, where our building is located, we're right across from the New River and everything. And like any major rainstorm, we are flooding, not the museum itself, thankfully. But like the street outside and like our parking garage and stuff like that, like it Anytime there's a high tide, anytime there's a large rain deluge, like anything like that, we see it. And so but that wasn't like the main driving force. It was really that with our reevaluation of what we wanted to focus on with those pillars, we decided that climate resiliency is something that we really need to work with. Being, like I mentioned earlier, in South Florida here, it's such a daily observance of everything we see out there. And so, and we also recognize that there is not a lot of education not that there's not a lot of education in the schools about it, but there's a more limited reliance on it for curriculum. There's a more limited reliance in lessons about it. It might touch on such a broad topic of everything that it's hard to teach in schools, whereas we have a little bit more freedom when we're talking to just community members that come through. And so we really wanted to take things that we can focus on, especially because most of our clientele are young children. We're not technically fully a children's museum. We are an all family ages museum, but the majority of our clientele is early education. And so we wanted to be able to start getting the message of things that can spark curiosity in those individuals at a level where they're able to understand it wherever they're at in their educational development. And actually, because of that, so often we get parents that come through there. They're like, "Whoa, I've never even heard of something like that. That's really crazy." And like even the parents are now starting to get involved and educated, which is awesome. That's what we want ultimately. But I think to that point of like kind of teaching like the broad strokes of things, I wanted to bring up a personal point, like when we're talking about, why is it that we don't see a lot of these things like in our school systems? To me, like having a graduate degree in the sciences and everything, and having worked as a research scientist for a brief bit and everything, I noticed that it's too large of a concept and it's too macro scale to just like have climate change as like a lesson curriculum or as a class in our education system for like K through 12. And once you get into like the upper level of high school, maybe it's a lot easier to implement those. But just in general education through that, I feel like we'd have a lot more success if we parse it out to like very specific topics that we can just like blend into what we're doing, which I'm sure a lot of teachers are probably out there doing. But it might not, like as you're searching through curricula, it might not come across right away that this is a climate change lesson. But like, for instance, if you're talking about, in biology, you can talk about like how reptiles tend to have temperature dependent sex determination, whether it's alligators, turtles, snakes, lizards, any of that stuff. And what we see is we have higher surface temperatures that we just happen to notice over the last couple of years. Our beaches are now starting to get higher temperatures in the nest where they're incubating, and that leads to a much higher level of feminization of our nests. It's a climate change lesson, but it's not being like hardcore hit with the identifier of this is climate change. And I think when you can talk about those very individualized, like specific points that are so localized to like what the school system, like what your students are experiencing and what they can relate to, you can start imparting in them the knowledge of what they need without having to deal with like the restrictions that come along so often when we're just like, we need to talk about climate change as a whole. And I think that could be a valuable approach, especially like if you have the freedom of being like a homeschool educator. That might be an easier approach for you to find those resources that you might be looking for, because it's easier to find things about an isolated subject such as that rather than like a whole large scale like lesson plan or curriculum that might be already developed about something that is a massive intertwined web of everything.
I think that's a really good point. In my experience, because I've been to some meetings with the American Geophysical Union and meeting with others from NOAA and NSF. They have a lot of good response from the public when there's citizen science involved. When they're actually collecting, the heat island effect, or drive around their car with their, thermometer or whatever it is they have, and rainfall as well, collecting their own rainfall. And so I think that's a really good point. Yeah,
I would say that the citizen science is quite important. Local organizations engage the community in that way. In the case of homeschools as well, if you get the students outdoors where they can see it and make the connection, that's really important.
I think
there's a couple chats that have been coming through.
Oh, let's see. Can you read that?
All right, so let's chat. How do we?
On for the
I think it's the one that has the red. fall there.
See that?
It's really hard.
Okay.
Oh, wait, let's call it down.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so some introductions. Thank you for that from Coconut Creek, from Miami, Illinois. Thank you all so much. So I just want to get to, so how do students get involved in the program at the museum was a question for Trevor. Can you also say the name of your museum?
Absolutely, yeah. So it is the Museum of Discovery and Science. It's in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We oftentimes will just refer to it as MODS. The program that I'm a part of is called the Eco Explorers. It is it's kind of I'm about to go into a spiel about it. It's a paid internship for high schoolers from Broward County Public School Systems that have been identified by the Children's Services Council as positive youth development schools, or PYD schools. So we have a listing of about, like, I think it's 26 to 30 different high schools that we pull from. All public schools. You have to be between 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And it is a full year-long contract that they work with us. While they're with us, like I said, it is a paid internship, so that every time that they're doing something that's intern related, they will receive wages. They receive a paycheck. They actually make up a little over the half of the museum's employable staff, which is really awesome. We currently have 88 of those high schoolers. Most of them are first-time work experience. So they get their uniforms provided to them. They get a free meal every shift that they work with us. They also get transportation barriers. We try to limit those as much as possible. So we'll provide like prepaid bus passes to them if they need them, things like that. Sometimes we can even like pay for an Uber ride for them, or a Lyft ride if they need special assistance getting to the museum. We do in the field excursions where we're out like the Everglades doing swamp walks. We're doing beach restoration. We're doing hikes through Jonathan Dickinson. We go all over the South Florida area, showing them all the different environments and biomes there. They have guest speakers from professionals from all different industries, whether they're local politicians, artists, architects, lawyers, research scientists, college recruiters, everything like that. We actually just recently got officially accredited by the Middle States Accrediting Board as a rigorous STEM pre-college program. So they're able to put that on their resumes and everything like that. We actually are available on the Common app as well for them to select that they can select they've been a part of a program like that. And then there's more benefits that they receive as well from being a part of the program, but it is open to Broward County Public School students.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting. Can you please expand it to county? Sorry, yeah.
I mean, that might have to come from one of the other science centers that's in the
Yeah.
area, because we do only focus on Broward County, and our main funding partner is the quasi-governmental agency for Broward County, but
We really need your program here.
I mean, we'd be happy to help them if
And that-
possible.
that's the- You know, in Jupiter, there's Lockhart Marine Life Center, which is, world renowned for research. So the different piece.
We'll see what we can do to spread the program.
Yeah, thank you, really good.
Absolutely.
So I'm getting a warning that we only have a couple minutes. Scott, do we only have 2 minutes in this room, or what's?
We have more time in the room if people want to stay, but
Okay.
we probably need to wrap if we're gonna be here. We probably got 6:15 because we only have the room to
Sure.
6:30, so we need to clean up, and I don't know what your timing is like right now, so why don't we have a little wrap up, and if you can stay longer and you want to discuss more, fine, and we'll go until people get in.
Well, I did want to bring a point, if we have a minute, from Catherine online. She's from Coral Springs and she teaches at an elementary school. And she was saying that we don't have time if it's not part of our curriculum, working with the district to have it in our curriculum helps teachers teach specifics. And I totally agree with that. In fact, I've had quite a bit of time looking at the standards, the Florida State standards with FAU Pine Job when we were working on that research. And there are some standards that certainly do target climate change, and especially when you get to the high level classes like AP and ACE, it is actually a part of their curriculum. You need to teach it. The students need to know those things in order to pass the AP and ACE tests. But there are some standards, they're just not quite as blunt as some other states that do deal with climate change. And so I do agree, if school districts got behind it, such as Broward, I think is one of those that's really done a great job with their Youth Climate Summit. I'm curious, Catherine, have you attended that Youth Climate Summit before?
That, and does your school work with Barbara with Dreaming Green? Because Barbara, you may want to recap this as well for homeschool. They have curriculum related to environmental science and perhaps climate change that she may be able to share. As compared to saying to the school district or teachers. So
Yeah, Barbara, you
she
may,
may be an excellent
yeah,
resource.
she may want to
She knows
talk to
better.
them.
Yeah, she's there. Barbara, would you mind, do you have a minute to speak about that?
Yes. And so sorry, the lights went out and my internet went out. So it took us a while. I don't know what's happening. Too many people putting on Christmas lights, maybe. I don't know. So yes, our program has a free curriculum, pre-K through 12th grade, and we have a curriculum that focuses on various sustainability topics that integrate climate education throughout. So, we have energy efficiency, water conservation, waste management and recycling, alternative transportation and air quality, food security, and green living, which encompasses green buildings and green careers. So within those topics, there are age-appropriate lessons for teachers that they can use, that they can download from our website free. If they want to participate in the competition part, they would just need to register. Our program is free to any school, any teacher. And we do tie in all of our lessons to the Florida State benchmarks. And we do have also a bunch of additional resources from partners nationwide that focus specifically on climate. We do kind of like a more holistic approach, but definitely, again, interwoven, and teachers can just download that and have those resources. And I can put the exact website on the chat for
Yeah,
anybody.
please.
And Barbara, you work with homeschool as well as public, charter, and private, correct?
So homeschool, we don't have the competition portion. We haven't figured out how to do the competition because there is some prizes that we give, but we are trying to build that program. Our capacity right now is something that we are considering and would love to work with someone because I'm not too familiar with the whole homeschool system. I know that there are various ways that it's done. So that's something that I think would be great improvement in addition to our program in the future.
And then Barbara, hi, I'm Verna. So do you mind in the text also include your contact details, your most updated contact details? So
Yep.
So
I'll put it in the chat and then Scott can share it with you.
Well, and I think it's worth noting, there's also an organization that's well known in Florida called Clio, and they provide quite a bit of curriculum as well.
How to spell that?
C-L-E-O.
They better run.
Leaders and engagement opportunities or something like that.
Cleo.
Yeah.
C-L-E-O.
They've been around a long time. They've worked with a lot of youth for a long time. They tend to focus on advocacy, which has its merit, absolutely. So there's lessons that are more about advocacy, and then we have other resources that are more about the science behind it. But some students want to hear both sides, so so it depends on
I
your.
want to hear both science based
Yes.
and advocacy.
Absolutely.
Because I've been
And so Clio would be a good resource for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because myself, I protect the oceans, I did campaigns and it was successful and recognized. But the most important is to get the audience, buy your concepts and get the knowledge to protect the earth, right? Yeah.
So I guess maybe just to wrap it up, because we do want to be respectful of everyone's time, including the libraries that we're so thankful to be here. Any kind of closing remarks, maybe we can start with you if you like.
I think that Trevor touched on it before. You need to get to the whole picture. The students is fantastic. You must also get to mom and dad. And having those opportunities where you have community engagement. You spoke earlier about families collecting the rainwater at home or participating in any of the climate studies being conducted by scientists. that brings them closer and connects them to the community that they live in. And that education goal ties in. You have to impact the whole child, the whole family for it to really stick.
It's a village.
That's how I look at it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the main thing I wanna kind of leave us with is just for, as educators, if we can find any opportunity, which I know you guys are all doing like your darndest to do it. But find any opportunity you can to like spark the caring nature of the students that you have for these topics. Even if it's the most informal introduction to any of the things that go along with any of this stuff. When you can get somebody to care about something, they're like leagues more likely to actually do something to make an impact about it and find a change that they're capable of taking part in. So, you know, whatever we can do to inspire them to care about things a lot more, and then whatever we can do to meet them where they're at. So, yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for being here and for hearing your perspectives, and for Verna as well. Thank you. Scott, did you want to say anything in closing?
Yeah, just to thank our panelists and Verna for joining us here. Just to add a few things, and I think that's a really important point, Trevor, about the caring, and we hope, you know, you obviously showed up as a group here and you care about this issue of climate education. So we hope you will continue to push for that. And I will send out some information to you with all links to some of the resources that people mentioned. And also, if you're living in Florida, please join our organization, Florida Climate Educators Network, and that's another way that you can participate in upping the importance of climate education for us here in Florida. So thank you again, and good night.
Thank you so